Hey everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. Today we're going to be talking about Nmap and what I feel like the top 10 switches slash commands are for this useful tool. So we'll go ahead and get started. We're going to open up a terminal inside my Kali Linux virtual machine that I have running. You can also run this on hardware as a full Kali install. So, first switch we're going to be talking about today is the SN switch, and what this is used for is for host discovery. And it disables the port scanning. So this is if you're just wanting to check a network to see what all hosts are alive, instead of trying to run a full Nmap scan against 250 some odd number IP addresses. You can narrow this down to what's actually on the network, so you're not spinning your wheels and kind of wasting a whole lot of time with it. This IP address here, this is the IP address of a local network that I have set up with a Metasploitable 2 machine. So once I run this, you'll see what all hosts are available on this IP address, and the 0/24 at the end. This is just to scan everything on the IP in the subnet instead of just scanning one IP address. So once we hit enter, you'll see that it comes back. I have 3 hosts that are up. Have 192.168.88.2, then .128.129. It says it scanned 256 IP addresses with 3 hosts up, and it scanned it in 2.51 seconds. So pretty useful. That, like I said, you're not going to spin your wheels wasting your time trying to scan the entire network doing an aggressive scan or OS discovery. You can narrow it down to what is actually online and live at the time that you need to use it. Okay, so next switch we're going to talk about is the top ports. And so we'll run Nmap. It's going to be -- top ports. And here you can verify a number if you want to scan, say, the top 15, top 20, top 100, top 1000, whatever works for you. You just type a number here. I'm going to use top 20. And the IP address that I'm going to use is for my Metasploitable 2 machine that I have running on this network. And the IP of that is 192.168.88.129, which comes from here, as you can see. Go ahead and hit enter on that. That run pretty quick. So this is the open ports currently on the Metasploitable machine that I have running. If you're not familiar with the Metasploitable virtual machines that you can do, they're inherently vulnerable. They're built for testing so that you can test like hacking skills and stuff against it without any real damage being done or anybody's real equipment. As far as legality and stuff too, you want to test on your own network unless you have written permission to test someone's network or it's equipment that you own yourself. Once you obtain these ports that are open and the service they are running, this is when you step up a little farther and start doing OS discovery and aggressive scans and versioning to see if maybe one of these scans is vulnerable by what their versioning is, if they've not been patched. So okay, so once you have your list of ports here, like I have on my virtual machine, next switch we're going to talk about is the -O, which is used for OS discovery. So it's to see what operating system you're going against, because not everything's going to have Linux, not everything's going to be Windows. So this will help you kind of do that. And you can also look at some of the ports as you go, and the more you learn which ports are open mainly on a Windows machine and which ports are mainly open on a Linux machine. So to run that command, we're going to do nmap -O. And then we're going to put in the IP address, which we'll use the same one that we did earlier. So, -88. This is for my Metasploitable machine. Oh yeah, and it's requiring root. You may run into this. If you do, it's no problem. You're going to do sudo, which is super user do, nmap. And we're going to do -O, that IP address once again. Enter your password for your sudo. Okay, that run pretty quick. So when this reaches out, it's going to check open ports. It's going to try to best guess what it thinks the system is. You can also run a more aggressive scan to kind of narrow this down. But if you'll notice here, it says that this is running Linux 2.6x, OS, CPE, Linux kernel. And then you see Linux 2.6.9 to 2.6.33. So this is the version that it's running currently. Sometimes you can look at this and you'll notice that there is unpatched software, it's outdated, and you can look for vulnerabilities there. So then we'll move on to the next switch. Okay, so this next switch we're going to talk about, I'm going to clear a little bit of room up here. So this next switch we're going to do is -A, and what this stands for is aggressive. And in this, it does OS discovery, version discovery, and it does trace route so that you can see what route it's taken to your target. Which, of course, my route's going to be small because I'm running it here as a virtual machine, but if you're testing a network, it's very handy to see and kind of be able to locate where like routers are and their IP addresses along the way to your target. So we're going to use the same IP address again of my Metasploitable machine. And scan. Now this scan varies on time depending on how many ports and things are open, so it may take a little time. I may pause the video here and then come back once it's finished so that there's no like dead time you guys having to wait on it. Alright guys, we're back. That didn't take too awful long to run. If you'll see here, it shows open ports. You'll see port 21 is TCP, its service is FTP, and it also shows the version of the FTP that's running. Here you'll see that anonymous FTP login is allowed. This is a huge no-no, just future reference when you guys get a little further into the career. If you're a beginner or maybe a little more advanced, you may know more about this if you've had a little time in. So ports, and you'll see here Metasploit, the name of what we're actually scanning actually shows up. What port is? Port 80 is your web server. This is what's running on the server. Apache HTTPD. This 2.2.8 is the version that's running on this server. You can look this up, research it. That may be a vulnerable version that's currently running on the server. Let's see what else is interesting. Here you go. This FTP here, Pro FTP 1.3.1, could be a vulnerability as well as this MySQL 5.0.51a. There may be a vulnerability there with that version. Also, when running an aggressive scan, sometimes it'll run scripts. Toward the end of the video, I'll have a command that I'll show you how to use Nmap, kind of like as a vulnerability scanner. So that comes in handy. A lot of the popular ones that people use is like Nessus, and Nikto is one of the other ones that a lot of people use too as well, other than just like manual exploitation. So yeah, we'll move on to the next switch that I think is very good. Next one's going to be Nmap -P. What -P stands for is port. So if you're wanting to look at a certain port or ports that you find, like how we have up here, we have 21, 22, 23, and you have like port 80. So you could do one port at a time if you would like. So you want to do port 21, and then you would do your IP address, the 192.168.88.129. That's only going to scan that one port for you. You can also do this, and you can scan multiple ports. You can add port 80. Whichever ports you're wanting to scan, you can add them in here. Something you can also do with this command is scan every port available, which you just do -P- and then enter. Which I'm not going to let this run because it will take a long, well, faster than thought. It's a little over 65,000 ports, so sometimes it's a little slower to get through all those. But you can see this one actually ran in 1.60 seconds, and it's probably because I'm serving it locally. I'm not actually reaching out, so it's here. It runs a little faster. It's on-prem. So okay, so the next switch we're going to talk about, it's kind of a combination switch that you would use, and this is used for timing. It's usually used if you're wanting to evade firewalls. There's also a way to fragment your packets too, so it's not usually picked up by an IDS. Same way with your speed. And what these look like is you're going to do a -T, and you have the option of 0 through 5. If you're running 0, this is labeled by Nmap as paranoid. This is as slow as it can possibly go to avoid detection. Next step up is T1, which is sneaky. T2 is polite. T3 is normal. If you don't set this, it will run at T3, which is normal scan all on its own. That's just default by Nmap. It's built in. You also have T4, which is aggressive, and T5, which is insane. With T4, T5, you do run the risk of being picked up by an IDS a lot faster because of how fast you're hammering that IP address that you're looking at. So just keep that in mind if you're testing network. Also, that is harder on the resources that the network has. So the harder you hit it and the faster you're going, you do run the possibility of crashing their system. So just be aware of that if you're going to move in to do any testing, even on your own network. So you don't want to be testing somebody's company and almost DDoS them and crash their systems. They will not be happy. So after that, we're going to talk about running a stealth scan. When you run a stealth, it's pretty much like a TCP scan, but it don't fully connect. So it's like you knock on the door and say hello, and they're like, "Who's there?" And then you don't answer, and you just like drop the connection. This is very helpful to avoid detection if you're scanning a network. We'll go ahead and run it. I think it's my Metasploitable machine here. And also this requires root privileges, so add sudo here. Okay, again, you get the same list of ports, but it's just not as invasive, so less likely of chance of you being picked up by IT staff or an IDS system when you're running a stealth connect. Just be aware that when you run scans like this, though, if a person is running Wireshark, they can see the packets coming in. So just be aware of that. Something else you can do besides the stealth is you can do a -F. And what -F does is fragment the packet that you're sending so that it makes it smaller. So little small bits come through. It's not as easy to pick up. They don't think it's like a large file coming across, and then it reconstructs on the other side. So after that switch, we're going to talk about version scanning. It's going to be Nmap-S V. And then so as you see above here, we have all these different ports, and then all the services that are running on them. So say I want to see what version this is of this FTP service that's running so that I can research it to possibly try to exploit it and hack my way into the system or get to their files. So I have SV, I'm going to do -P for my port. I'm going to do 21. Then I'm going to leave that IP address the same with that Metasploitable machine that I have running. Hit enter, and you're going to see here it replies back. VSFTPD 2.3.4. So a lot of times you can take this here and you can research this on a simple Google search. We'll pull back if there's any vulnerabilities there. So let me pull this. Let me make a quick copy and then we'll go to Google and we'll look it up. There's also a thing called ExploitDB, which is a good place to look at exploits. And like if you're looking for Google Dorks or just any other exploit that's out there, you'll see that as well. Once inside exploit database here, you can paste in what we copied. Well, it didn't come across, I don't think. Okay, let me recopy that. Instance. Okay. That, paste. Okay, so you can see here, there's a backdoor command execution. This is huge. If you can get command execution on anything, you pretty much own the system. So, especially remote code, which is types remote Unix. Once you click on this, it's the code that you need to actually run this exploit. I'm not going to get too deep into the weeds in this, but once you learn a little bit of code and stuff too, as you get along, you'll realize what this does, how it responds, and how to use it to your advantage. There's also a program called Metasploit that has a lot of these built in. You just search for the vulnerability that you're looking for, and it will have a bunch of exploits that you can set up and run against the target to gain access. While we're here, something I want to do, if you're really interested in Nmap and want to get started in pen testing, nmap.org is a huge resource. Like anything you need to know, you can go here, you can do the reference guide. Say you're wanting to do host discovery. When you go to host discovery, it's going to list all the switches / commands that you need that you can run. against the target. So they can explanations of them, what they are. Great resource. I suggest you go check this out any chance you get if you want to read through and go over. Also, something I suggest is this book, Nmap Network Scanning. This is by the creator of Nmap. It's available on Amazon. I will put links to this book as well as links to Nmap's website down in the description below if you want to click that and check it out. But I do suggest you do that, especially starting out, to go in and see what you're kind of running and what the capabilities are of Nmap as well. Okay, last up, which is number 10, top 10 on my list here, I think is very useful, especially if you're just getting started. A lot of your vulnerability testing stuff is very expensive as far as like Nessus. I think it's a couple of grand just for a year to have access to use Nessus for vulnerability scanning. Another great tool that you should check out is Burp Suite. It comes pre-installed on Kali. You can also install it on Windows if you don't want to run Kali. It's very good for not only this kind of like penetration test, but it's also good for web application penetration testing. I think the price on it is just a little over $400 at time of recording. So, but we'll show you how to use Nmap as a vulnerability scanner. So we're going to do Nmap dash script equals vault, as you see, and then we're going to run 192.168.88.129, which is our metasploitable machine. This is going to take a little time to run because there's a lot of vulnerabilities on metasploitable. So I'm going to go ahead and start this run. I'm going to pause the video and then we'll come back once it's done running. Okay, and we're back. That took just over 5 minutes to complete running. Reason being this took a while is this machine is really vulnerable. It's designed to be that way. Once it's back, you'll see here it shows the port. It's open, service, backdoor. It says that it's vulnerable. Tells you here state vulnerable, exploitable, ID. Same way this VSFTPD version backdoor. This is the same thing that I've shown you guys on Exploit DB. So using Nmap as a scan for vulnerability also pulled that vulnerability. Let's go a little down. We didn't run -D for debug. We didn't need that. Vulnerable. Here the SSLDH parameters vulnerable. And this is an Diffie-Hellman key exchange man in the middle vulnerability. Is what MITM stands for, is man in the middle. Let me go a little farther down here. Let's see what kind of piques interest. This couldn't find any stored XSS vulnerabilities. What that stands for is cross-site scripting. Possible SQLi for a query. So Matilde is another part of Metasploitable. This is where you can run it's like a vulnerable website. You can do SQL injection stuff. We'll do that probably in further videos. Get down a little farther here. A lot of this you're seeing is just directories. Something like you could use ffuzz on like Dirbuster to find some of the endpoints of a website. Okay, see here another vulnerability, RMI registry default config, remote code execution vulnerability, which is huge. That's golden, especially if you guys are looking into getting into bug bounty. If you can get remote code execution on a website, you will make a ton of money. So go down a little further. MySQL script execution fails, so no reply. See here the Postgres SQL is Diffie-Hellman exchange insufficient group strength, so it's also vulnerable. Like I said, again, Metasploitable's VirtualBox or virtual machine is designed to be exploitable. So real world, you're normally not going to see anywhere near this many vulnerabilities. It'll be few and far between most of the time, unless it's just really terrible security setup. So HTTP, this is looking at endpoints of a website. So this is every directory that it found in Nmap running. So you could visit these websites. So you take your IP address /admin/home.html possible admin folder to get to that folder. Okay. That's all of that one. Okay, guys, I believe that's all I have for Nmap. I know this is kind of a quick run through. Nmap is a very deep dive, and it's a useful tool. Like I said, I refer you guys back to the nmap.org website. There's tons of stuff that you can do with Nmap. This is just kind of scratching the surface, but this is the top 10 that I've used probably the most daily of any kind of pen test or anything, or even doing Try Hack Me, which is another recommendation I would give you guys, is go to tryhackme.com or Hack the Box. There are several machines on there that you can hack, and it's all legal, and it's a great learning thing. And Try Hack Me offers a lot for free, but I think their monthly subscription's somewhere around $13-14 US currently. So I suggest you guys to check that out. If you like this video, comment, like, and subscribe. My plan is to upload every week some kind of new thing, not only hacking side, but also IT, as far as, Active Directory, Windows machine, setting up users, that kind of thing, anything that's helpful. But thank you guys for watching.